The Voynich Manuscript is an illustrated codex, handwritten in an unknown writing system. The vellum on which it is written has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, 1404 to 1438, and it may have been composed in northern Italy during the Italian Renaissance. The manuscript is named after Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912. Some of the pages are missing, with around 240 still remaining. The text is written from left to right, and most of the pages have illustrations or diagrams. Some pages are foldable sheets. The Voynich manuscript has been studied by many professional and amateur cryptographers, including American and British codebreakers from both World War I and World War II. Yeah. No one has yet succeeded in deciphering the text, and has become a famous case in the history of cryptography. The mystery of the meaning and origin of the manuscript has excited the popular imagination, making the manuscript the subject of novels and speculation. None of the many hypotheses proposed over the last 100 years has yet been independently verified. The Voynich manuscript was donated by Hans P. Krauss to Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library in 1969, where it is cataloged under call number MS408. Section 1. Description. Codicology. The codicology, or physical characteristics of the manuscript, are studied by various researchers. The manuscript measures 23.5 by 16.2 by 5 centimeters, with hundreds of vellum pages collected into 18 quires, units of 25 pages. The total number of pages is around 240, but the exact number depends on how the manuscript's unusual foldouts are counted. The quires have been numbered from 1 to 20 in various locations, using numerals consistent with the 1400s, and the top right-hand corner of each recto, right-hand page, has been numbered from 1 to 116, using numerals of a later date. From the various numbering gaps in the quires and pages, it seems likely that in the past, the manuscript had at least 272 pages, in 20 quires, some of which were already missing when Wilfrid Voynich acquired the manuscript in 1912. There is strong evidence that many of the book's bifolios were reordered at various points in its history, and that the original page order may well have been quite different from what it is today. Parchment, covers, and binding. Protein testing revealed the paper, parchment, was made from calf skin, and multispectral analysis in 2014 showed the parchment was unwritten before the manuscript was created. While the parchment was created with care, deficiencies exist, and the quality is assessed as average at best. Some folios are thicker than the usual parchment thickness, for example, bifolios 42 and 47. The goatskin binding and covers are not original to the book, but date to its possession by the Collegio Romano. Insect holes, present on the first and last folios of the manuscript in the current order, suggest a wooden cover was present earlier to the later covers, and discoloring on the edges points to a tanned leather inside cover. Be old. Ink. Many pages contain substantial drawings or charts, which are colored with paint. Based on modern analysis using polarized light microscopy, PLM, it has been determined that a quill pen and iron gall ink were used for the text and figure outlines. The colored paint was applied somewhat crudely to the figures, possibly at a later date. The ink of the drawings, text, and page and quire numbers had similar microscopic characteristics. Energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, EDS, performed in 2009, revealed that the inks contained major amounts of iron, sulfur, potassium, calcium, and carbon, and trace amounts of copper and occasionally zinc. EDS did not show the presence of lead, while X-ray diffraction, XRD, identified potassium lead oxide, potassium hydrogen sulfate, and syngenite in one of the samples tested. The similarity between the drawing inks and text inks suggested a contemporaneous origin. Paint. The blue, clear or white, red-brown, and green paints of the manuscript have been analyzed using PLM, XRD, EDS, and scanning electron microscopy, SEM. The blue paint proved to be ground azurite with minor traces of the copper oxide cuprite. The clear paint is likely a mixture of egg white and calcium carbonate, while the green paint is tentatively characterized by copper and copper chlorine resonate. The crystalline material might be atacamite or another copper chlorine compound. Analysis of the red-brown paint indicated a red ochre with the crystal phases hematite and iron sulfide. Minor amounts of lead sulfide and palmierite were possibly present in the red-brown paint. The pigments were considered inexpensive. Retouching. It is highlighted by computer scientist Jorge Stolfi of the University of Campinas that parts of the text and drawings are modified, using darker ink over a fainter earlier script. Evidence for this is visible in various folios. Text. Every page in the manuscript contains text, mostly in an unknown language, but some have extraneous writing in Latin script. The bulk of the text in the manuscript of 240 pages is written in an unknown script, running left to right. Most of the characters are composed of 1 or 2 simple pen strokes. While there is some dispute as to whether certain characters are distinct or not, a script of 20 to 25 characters would account for virtually all of the text. The exceptions are a few dozen rarer characters that occur only once or twice each. There is no obvious punctuation. Much of the text is written in the single column in the body of a page, with a slightly ragged right margin and paragraph divisions, and sometimes with stars in the left margin. Other text occurs in charts or as labels associated with illustrations. There are no indications of any errors or corrections made at any place in the document. The ductus flows smoothly, giving the impression that the symbols were not enciphered, as there is no delay between characters, as would normally be expected in written, encoded text. The text consists of over 170,000 characters, with spaces dividing the text into about 35,000 groups of varying length, usually referred to as words or word tokens, 37,919. 8,114 of those words are considered unique word types. The structure of these words seems to follow phonological or orthographic laws of some sort. For example, certain characters must appear in each word, like English vowels. Some characters never follow others. Some may be doubled or tripled, but others may not, etc. The distribution of letters within words is also rather peculiar. Some characters occur only at the beginning of a word, some only at the end, and some always in the middle section. Professor Gonzalo Rubio, expert in ancient languages at Pennsylvania State University, stated that, quote, "The things we know as grammatical markers, things that occur commonly at the beginning or end of words, such as S or D in our language, and that are used to express grammar, never appear in the middle of words in the Voynich Manuscript. That's unheard of for any Indo-European, Hungarian, or Finnish language." Many researchers have commented upon the highly regular structure of the words. Some words occur in only certain sections, or in only a few pages. Others occur throughout the manuscript. There are very few repetitions among the 1,000 or so labels attached to the illustrations. There are practically no words with fewer than 2 letters, or more than 10. There are instances where the same common word appears up to 3 times in a row. Words that differ by only one letter also repeat with unusual frequency, causing single substitution alphabet decipherings to yield Babel-like text. In 1962, cryptanalyst Elizabeth Friedman described such attempts as, quote, doomed to utter frustration, unquote. Various transcription alphabets have been created to equate the Voynich manuscript with Latin characters in order to help with cryptanalysis, such as the European Voynich alphabet. The first major one was created by cryptographer William F. Friedman in the 1940s, where each line of the manuscript was transcribed to an IBM punch card to make it machine-readable. Extraneous writing. Only a few words in the manuscript are considered not to be written in the unknown script. Folio 1. A sequence of Latin letters in the right margin parallel with characters from the unknown script. There is also the now unreadable signature of Jacob a Tipense in the bottom margin. Folio 17. A line of writing in the Latin script in the top margin. Folio 66, a small number of words in the bottom left corner near a drawing of a nude man. They have been read as der Muschdel, a High German word for a widow's share. Folio 70 through 73, the astrological series of diagrams in the astronomical section has the names of 10 of the months from March to December written in Latin script, with spelling suggestive of the medieval languages of France, northwest Italy, or the Iberian Peninsula. Folio 116. 4 lines of writing written in rather distorted Latin script, except for 2 words in the unknown script. The words in Latin script appear to be distorted with characteristics of the unknown language. The lettering resembles European alphabets of the late 14th and 15th centuries, but the words do not seem to make sense in any language. It is not known whether these bits of Latin script were part of the original text or were added later. Illustrations. Because the text cannot be read, the illustrations are conventionally used to divide most of the manuscript into 6 different sections. Each section is typified by illustrations with different styles and supposed subject matter, except for the last section, in which the only drawings are small stars in the margin. Following are the sections and their conventional names. Herbal, 112 folios. Each page displays 1 or 2 plants and a few paragraphs of text, a format typical of European herbals of the time. Some parts of these drawings are larger and cleaner copies of sketches seen in the pharmaceutical section. None of the plants depicted are unambiguously identifiable. Astronomical, 21 folios. Contains circular diagrams, some of them with suns, moons, and stars, suggestive of astronomy or astrology. One series of 12 diagrams depicts conventional symbols for the zodiacal constellations: 2 fish for Pisces, a bull for Taurus, a hunter with crossbow for Sagittarius, etc. Each of these has 30 female figures arranged in 2 or more concentric bands. Most of the females are at least partly nude, and each holds what appears to be a labeled star, or is shown with a star attached by what could be a tether or cord of some kind to either arm. The last 2 pages of this section, Aquarius and Capricornus, roughly January and February, were lost, while Aries and Taurus are split into 4 paired diagrams with 15 women and 15 stars each. Some of these diagrams are on fold-out pages. Biological, 20 folios. A dense, continuous text interspersed with figures, mostly showing small, nude women, some wearing crowns, bathing in pools or tubs connected by an elaborate network of pipes. The bifolio, consisting of folios 78, verso, and 81, recto, form an integrated design with water flowing from one folio to the other. Cosmological, 13 folios. More circular diagrams, but of an obscure nature. This section also has foldouts. One of them, commonly called the Rosettes folio, spans 6 pages and contains a map or diagram with 9 islands or rosettes connected by causeways and containing castles, as well as what might be a volcano. Pharmaceutical, 34 folios. Many labeled drawings of isolated plant parts, roots, leaves, etc. Objects resembling apothecary jars, ranging in style from the mundane to the fantastical, and a few text paragraphs. Recipes, 22 folios. Full pages of text broken into many short paragraphs, each marked with a star in the left margin. 5 folios contain only text, and at least 28 folios are missing from the manuscript. Purpose. The overall impression given by the surviving leaves of the manuscript is that it was meant to serve as a pharmacopoeia, or to address topics in medieval or early modern medicine. However, the puzzling details of illustrations have fueled many theories about the book's origins, the contents of its text, and the purpose for which it was intended. The first section of the book is almost certainly herbal, but attempts to identify the plants, either with actual specimens or with the stylized drawings of contemporary herbals, have largely failed. Only a few of the plant drawings, such as a wild pansy and the maidenhair fern, can be identified with reasonable certainty. Those herbal pictures that match pharmacological sketches appear to be clean copies of these, except that missing parts were completed with improbable-looking details. In fact, many of the plant drawings in the herbal section seem to be composite. The roots of one species have been fastened to the leaves of another, with flowers from a third. Botanist Hugh O'Neill believed that one illustration depicted a New World sunflower, which would help date the manuscript and open up intriguing possibilities for its origin. Unfortunately, the identification is only speculative. The basins and tubes in the biological section are sometimes interpreted as implying a connection to alchemy, yet bear little obvious resemblance to the alchemical equivalent of the period. Astrological considerations frequently played a prominent role in herb gatherings, bloodletting, and other medical procedures common during the likeliest dates of the manuscript. However, apart from the obvious zodiac symbols and one diagram possibly showing the classical planets, interpretation remains speculative. Whoa. Every page of the manuscript is in the Wikipedia article. We've got a picture of every single page. This sound file and all text in the article are licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike Unported license, available at creativecommons.org.